It's time to do a PA Plow Day wrap-up and recap.
So it was another overall good year at Plow Day, like it always is. Certainly challenging in some aspects, but very good in most aspects. So we'll start with the little diesel. This thing worked awesome. The addition of the throttle and the electric start was very much appreciated by everyone who used it. Front weight bracket. This was it's more built because I had weights to use, not so much because this thing needs weights, because it really doesn't need weights per se. So, you know, not really much to say there. Motor ran great and chugged right along, pulling the single 8-inch. It'll go in basically whatever gear you want, and it just goes. So for next year, I'll probably put a belt on it, try and smooth the clutch out a little bit, and I have to put an alternator on it. The 67 Suburban 10, this thing was phenomenal. It did very well, I thought. I picked up this 10-inch plow from Dylan Maurer. Thanks again, that thing worked sweet, and I thought it was an 8-inch plow, and then I looked at it, and Austin also pointed out that it is a 10, and you know, which is pretty cool to find a full-size plow, so to speak. And most of the time I would be in either third low or second high with this machine, and that's about all it was happy to do, just because 10 horsepower is not a ton of horsepower. This weight bracket worked out quite well. We hung 3 weights off the front, which was probably more than what was needed, but was aesthetically pleasing, so to speak. And yeah, no, this thing ran awesome, which was really cool because I've never really done anything with this tractor. It usually just sits with implements on it for show purposes. So I had really no idea what it was going to do when put under a load, and I was quite happy for it to do as well as it did. So that was cool. And now the big diesel. So the 3-bottom works technically. The issue there is the third plow does not dig in the way the first two do. In fact, the plows dig in progressively less the farther back you go. So that is to say that you can bury the front plow, the second plow is probably 80% submerged, and then the third plow, it depends on a couple factors, namely how the hitch is set up and that sort of thing. A quick note was my new lift handle worked very well, so that was cool. It also had no electrical issues the whole weekend, so that was cool. But now the hitch. So as you can see, the 2 cylinders are not in line with each other, so to speak. I didn't really cover any of this in previous videos because at that point this machine wasn't going. And but basically this cylinder lifts before this one does, and originally the supply hoses were just routed to this cylinder and then teed off to the second one. And as you can see, I kind of had to get creative and use 4 short hoses with a central tee, and that is because if you want the cylinders to act at the same time, you have to center the hydraulic flow, so to speak. And even with that done, they still didn't lift completely simultaneously, and I think that can just be attributed to differences in wear within the cylinders. You know, like if this cylinder is maybe a little bit more worn, maybe it has a little leak down more so than the other one, then it may take it a little bit longer to come up. But in any event, underneath here there's a piece of flat stock. See if I can point it out right there. And that was designed to tie these two together so that they would lift in parallel, so to speak. And because that flat stock would easily bend, I added a piece of 1/4-inch angle iron. And as you can see, the welds on the angle iron were quite good. However, the welds on the flat stock leave something to be desired. So we made it through the whole weekend, which really just means Saturday, because we didn't plow Friday or Sunday, but I made it until about 3:30, 4 o'clock on Saturday before that gave out. So now as far as what's going to become of the triple, it's over here. You can see I had to break it down because with the hitch busted like that, it would only pick up one plow. So I just dropped the rear two. So 3 is the limit for this thing. It does not have the power to pull a 4th one. I'm not going to bother trying, and that's that. So what I think I'm going to do is I have some plans in the works for this machine, including changing out the rear end, and I think I'm just going to build my own Cat 0 3-point hitch and build it to accept both Sears and traditional Cat 0 implements, because I think that if I can convert the triple to Cat 0, I can get it so that the rear plow will dig in properly. And when I do that, I'll probably also put my 2-spool valve on it, put the single spool valve on the 8XL. I'll give that thing hydraulics for running a tandem 8. Yeah, this thing, I think, you know, for the last couple of years I've been kind of struggling to figure out what it's gonna do, you know, because it's kind of an oddball machine. And at this point, I think all it's ever gonna do is have a 3-point hitch, go to Plow Day, do that sort of thing. Eventually I'd like to try and build a mule drive setup for it for a mower deck, but that's a less of a priority. So I think what I'll probably do is build a hitch for it, because this one flexes quite a bit, reinforce the rear end of the frame. You know, I have a potential rear end swap that would give me high and low range as well as a differential lock. So I think if I can get all that done, throw a little bit more weight on it, and maybe drop some air out of the tires, you should pull the 3 bottom quite well. So I don't want to get too much into making this a video just about this big tractor, but that's what's coming down the line. So that's my Plow Day recap. The truck did quite well, I thought, for what it is. Given that this thing is not really set up to tow whatsoever, I thought it did a pretty good job. I still have to clean it, as you can see, but that is my Plow Day wrap up.